The Florida Hometown Heroes Down Payment Assistance Program is designed to assist eligible first-time home buyers in Florida by providing financial assistance for down payment and closing costs. The program aims to make homeownership more accessible for individuals who work full-time in the state of Florida. So if you have questions about this program and want to see if you're eligible, please comment, "Help me get HTH" below, and my team and I will take care of you. So here's some details about the program, specifically starting with the eligibility criteria. So applicants must be first-time homebuyers, meaning you have not owned a primary residence in the last 3 years. So it's a little different than other programs. You must also be employed full-time by a company with a brick and mortar location in the state of Florida. Now, when this program was first released a couple of years ago, you had to work in a specific field. You had to be a firefighter, police officer, a paramedic, a nurse, a doctor, right? Someone that would be a first responder. However, when the program was re-released in the middle of 2023, they lifted that restriction and they made the rule that you had to work at least 35 or more hours per week for a Florida-based company. Well, now in 2024, the newest change is that you need to work for a Florida-based company full time, right? That's it. Doesn't really specify the number of hours. You need to be considered a full-time employee. Now, as far as the properties are concerned, they must be located in Florida. Pretty simple, right? You need to be live in Florida, buying a property in Florida that you're going to live in year round. You have to be buying as a primary residence. Now, you must meet income limits that are established by the program and vary depending on the size of your family and the county where you're looking to purchase. Now, the limits for this program are pretty high. However, there are still limits. The cool thing with this program, though, as opposed to other down payment assistance programs offered through the state of Florida, is that the income used for qualifying or for setting those limits is the qualifying income, meaning the income of the individual who's applying for the mortgage, not the household income. A lot of the other programs, such as the Florida Bond Program, and you can learn more about that watching some of my other videos on down payment assistance, but the Florida Bond Program, for example, actually utilizes the household income. So it makes it a little more difficult to qualify for, because if your combined household income exceeds that amount, but you don't even need all that income to qualify for the program, you would still disqualify. But with Florida Hometown Heroes, as long as the person applying for the mortgage's income is at or below that county limit based on family size, well, you would be eligible for the program, assuming you meet all of the other criteria. Now, this program offers financial assistance in the form of a deferred second mortgage. Now, this isn't free money. That's a common misconception with this program. You're not getting the money and not having to repay it. This money does have to be repaid, and it does have to be paid back under certain scenarios, and I'll explain what those are. But the amount of money you receive is going to be based on the amount of money you're borrowing on your first mortgage. Now, here's another thing that might not be common knowledge. The first mortgage amount and the interest rate on that, more importantly, is not going to vary from one bank or lender to the other. The interest rates on the first mortgage for the Florida Hometown Heroes program, whether you're using the conventional option, the FHA option, the VA option, or the USDA option, the interest rate offered for each of those options does not vary from lender to lender, because the state of Florida sets that rate, and that rate could change from day to day, just the same way the market changes, but it's not going to change from lender to lender, which is the point I'm trying to make. The amount of money you receive is capped at $35,000. So for an example, $35,000 would be the amount you receive if your first loan amount was $700,000. And the way I got that number is because Florida Hometown Heroes gives you the money in the form of a 5% second lien, meaning it's 5% of whatever your first loan amount is. But that's capped at $35,000, but will never be less than $10,000. So if you're borrowing $150,000 on your first mortgage, you would get $10,000. If you're borrowing $700,000 on your first mortgage, it would be $35,000. If you're borrowing $400,000 on your first mortgage, it would be $20,000. Now, that $20,000 should be enough to cover at least your down payment, because if you're a first-time home buyer, which you have to be for this program, you can do a conventional option, your down payment could be as low as 3%, which means the amount you're receiving would exceed that, so a portion of it can go toward your closing costs. If you're doing the FHA option, your down payment's 3.5%. Once again, this amount would exceed your down payment, so money would go toward closing costs. If you're a veteran and you're borrowing 100% of the property's purchase price, because you're not required to give a down payment using a VA loan, well, that 5% should cover all of your closing costs, because you're not needing a down payment, so no money has to go toward the down payment, right? So that's how the funds work. That's how you determine the amount that you can receive. Now, I was saying that this money is not forgiven, meaning you do have to repay it. You have to repay this if you sell the home, refinance the first mortgage that you're getting, or you move out, no longer occupy the home as your primary residence. Or if you happen to keep this loan for all 30 years, it would be repayable at the end of the 30 years. Now, it's unlikely you'll have it 30 years, but I don't want to say that can't happen. So if it were to happen, the loan would then be due and payable at the end of the 30 years. I'm talking about the funds you received to cover the down payment and or closing costs, or both, when it comes to this Hometown Heroes Fund. Now, you're going to have to do a home buyer education course with this. It can be done online. It's really simple, but all applicants are required to complete the home buyer education course through an approved program administrator. And it's going to cover topics like the budget, credit management, mortgage financing, and just general home ownership responsibilities. Completion of this course, though, is mandatory to participate in the Hometown Heroes program, and it's going to help you make an informed decision throughout the home buying process, which is really nice. I think it is a requirement, but I understand why it is, and I think it's important for you to do, even if you're not utilizing this program, as a matter of fact. Now, the process for applying for these funds is rather simple. You can do it right through an eligible lender, which we are, but you can go ahead, you apply for your mortgage. Typically, if you're eligible for the mortgage, you would be eligible for this program, assuming you meet the criteria I mentioned before. You're a first-time home buyer, your income falls within the limitations. Another thing that's important with the Florida Hometown Heroes program versus maybe a regular FHA loan or a regular conventional loan, more specifically FHA, I should say, is that you're capped at a 50% debt to income ratio, meaning the amount of money you make monthly compared to your expenses, including the new property you're buying, can't be more than 50%, where on our traditional FHA loan, that can actually go as high as 57%, right? So that there is that limitation, but it's well worth it to try to keep it down a little bit in order to get these funds, because this is going to help a lot of people purchase a home when they may not have been able to buy because they can't save up enough money to cover their down payment and closing costs in a traditional manner. Now, you're required to submit all your documentation to your lender as far as your income, your employment, so on and so forth, to qualify. Now, upon approval, you're going to receive assistance in the form of the down payment and closing costs, as we talked about, and it's going to allow you to purchase a home when you may not have been able to otherwise. Now, the Florida Hometown Heroes Down Payment Assistance Program offers valuable support to eligible first-time homebuyers in Florida by providing that financial assistance for down payment and closing costs, as I said. Any prospective home buyers that are interested in participating in the program should review their eligibility criteria or speak to a lender who can fill them in on that and complete the required home buyer education course. Once again, your lender can provide you with a link to do that and apply through that lender. For more videos like this one, or to find out more about the Florida Hometown Heroes program, please make sure to subscribe to this channel.